You really need to listen to what this man says, because this is important stuff. Eduardo da Costa, please step forward.
It's okay. Good evening, everyone. It is both a privilege and a great honor to be here participating in your district conference and representing the Rotary World Peace Scholars. I thought I would be making a big mistake if I started my brief presentation today without saying thank you to Leo Fairbairn and Larry and Maureen Labadie for inviting me to come here today. Thank you so much. I thought that instead of delivering a standard speech and trying to maybe educate you on more specific details of the peace program, I thought you would be more interested in hearing my story. My grandfather, José da Costa, the father of my father, he was a very poor man who lived in a very poor life in a very poor community along the Amazon River in Brazil. He never went to school. He didn't know how to write. He didn't know how to read. He spent his entire life growing bananas and selling bananas along the Amazon River. But although he did not have any formal educational background, he knew very basic math just to allow him to do business with his bananas. Although he did not have formal education, he was wise enough, visionary enough, to send my father, Augusto da Costa, to the capital city, Belém, the capital city of Pará State. Because he believed that in the capital city, my father would have more educational opportunities and more chances in life. My father first went to school at the age of 14. He was 14 years old when he learned how to read and write. And he made it as far as a bachelor's degree in economics from a local university. When my father finished his program, because of his outstanding performance as an undergraduate student, he was given a scholarship to go to Sorbonne University in France for his master's studies. And he received the scholarship during the graduation ceremony, which was a great honor for him. So that night he took the papers, the documents about the program, he took them home and he read them. And he realized that the program was in French. And my father did not speak a single word in French. So that night, he missed the greatest educational opportunity in his life because of a language requirement. And according to the story they told me, that very night, my mom, Elenir da Costa, she had this brilliant idea to put me, my brother, and my sister to study in English, because she thought that, speaking a foreign language would make a difference in my future. And I think she was absolutely right. So I thank my mom for that inspiring idea. And trust me, it's always the women who have the brightest and most brilliant ideas in the world. Yeah. So, just like my father, I'm also an economist. My father inspired me to take economics. And when I finished my undergraduate program in Brazil, I decided to study a little bit more about sustainable development. Because most of the deforestation process, most of the destruction in the Amazon rainforest, where I come from, most of the destruction had been caused by large-scale developments, such as hydroelectric power dams, mining operations, large-scale commercial agriculture. Because most of the destruction and deforestation had been caused by large-scale initiatives, I decided to study the potential contribution of small businesses. To what extent small-scale businesses could promote sustainable development and environmental conservation in the rainforest. So I had to study. And then I went to southern Brazil, São Paulo. They have one of the top schools in Brazil. And I applied to their program in sustainable development. Letters of recommendation, application materials. And I took a flight. I went there for the interview. During the interview, because I had passed in the other steps, letters of recommendation and application, whatever. That was the final step. During the interview, one of the members of the committee turned to me and said, Eduardo, you have a great GPA, you speak English fluently, you have a good educational background. However, you come from northern Brazil, which is a poor part of the country. You do not have the best universities there. So I'm not sure if you'll be able to be admitted. So I was not admitted. I took a flight back to my hometown and said, okay, this is life. Let's try again. And then 2 years after that, I decided to try a master's degree, a master's program in sustainable development in my hometown in the Amazon rainforest, a local university. Very good program. Again, letters of recommendation, application materials, etc. And during the interview, one of the members of the committee, a professor, he said, Eduardo, you want to study the potential role of small businesses to promote sustainable development. So I'm not sure this is really one of our lines of research. To make a long story short, I was not admitted. So later on, I learned that professor was a professor who had a radical left-wing orientation, a radical leftist. And you do not discuss businesses, small businesses, free enterprise with professors who have this left orientation. So I was not admitted. And I said, okay. I turned to my wife and said, Cynthia, so maybe it's not meant to be. Maybe I was not born to go to graduate school. And then I did a 1-year MBA program in my hometown, a local program. And then I started working at the Chamber of Commerce. That's when Rotary came into my life. A local Rotarian who worked at the Chamber of Commerce, he invited me to volunteer as an interpreter for Mr. Robert Scott. In 2007, Mr. Robert Scott, Bob Scott, as you called him, he came to my hometown in the Amazon rainforest to participate in a zone institute, Brazilian Rotary Zone Institute. And they needed an interpreter because he's Canadian, he could not speak Portuguese. And then he called me and I said, okay, I'll do it. I talked to my boss and I spent 4 days being the voice of Mr. Robert Scott, driving him back and forth from the hotel to the convention center. He's the first Rotarian who told me about the peace program, the Rotary World Peace Fellowship. I still remember when we were arriving at the hotel, I was driving him back and he asked me, Eduardo, do you believe in the power of your ideas? Do you believe that it's possible to save the rainforest by promoting small-scale, sustainable businesses? I said, yes, I do, Mr. Scott, but I have to be honest with you. He had told me about the program, said, I have to be honest with you, I was not admitted to 2 schools in my own country. So I think it would be a waste of time for me to try. He said, Eduardo, if you believe in the power of your dreams, consider applying in the future. That was in 2007. In 2008, the same Rotarian who had invited me to volunteer, he called me and said, Eduardo, the deadline of the peace program. But in 2008, my brother, Augusto, was diagnosed with leukemia. And it was really stress. The family was mobilized to support him during the treatment. He went through chemotherapy treatment. And then in 2009, the same Rotarian, he insisted, he called me once again, Eduardo, would you consider submitting your application? You speak English, etc. I said, okay, I'll do it this time. And then I submitted my applications. And I was awarded the prestigious Rotary World Peace Fellowship. And 6 months after that, I was admitted to Duke University, one of the top schools in this country and in the world. So that's the moment I realized that the problem is that those two individuals, those two professors who had interviewed me, they had discriminated against me. First, on a regional basis, because I was from northern Brazil, and second, on an ideological basis, because I believe in the power of free enterprise and small businesses. So I usually mention this story because this is the first message I want you Rotarians to take home tonight. Rotarians are not gatekeepers. Rotarians are door openers. Rotarians are opening doors. People like me who need educational opportunities in the Amazon rainforest. Children in India, Pakistan, Nigeria, and Afghanistan who need the polio vaccine. Families in Africa who need access to clean water. Remember this, you're not gatekeepers, you're door openers. As I was growing up in Brazil, my father also used to tell me something that I always remember when I think of Rotary and Rotarians. My father used to tell me, Eduardo, because you work hard, because you study a lot, I have no doubt that someday you will get to the top of your professional career, the top of your academic life. But my son, when you get to the top, don't forget to send the elevator back down so that other people can have the same opportunities that you had. So that's my working definition of Rotary and Rotarians. All of you, ladies and gentlemen, you are successful business people. All of you have reached the top of your professional life, personal life. Some of you are retired. And what are you doing now? You are sending elevators back down to India, to Africa, to the Amazon rainforest. You are providing people with opportunities so that they can make a better world. So that's my personal definition of Rotary. So what exactly did I study at Duke? I spent 2 years at Duke University. The name of the program is Master of International Development Policy. And the focus is sustainable development. In the time it takes me to make this brief presentation, 15-20 minutes, an area the size of 2 football fields is destroyed in the Amazon rainforest. 2 football fields every 20 minutes. Sorry. In the last 10 years, help me with the numbers. In the last 10 years, over 500 environmental activists and indigenous leaders were murdered in the Amazon rainforest. I'm an economist and I like averages. And if you help me with the numbers, 500 in 10 years is the average of 50 per year, 4 per month, 1 per week. If you kill 500 environmental activists on the same day, it's going to be CNN, breaking news, front page New York Times, genocide in the Amazon. They'll call it a genocide. But if you kill the same 500 indigenous leaders over the period of 10 years, it doesn't really make the news. And people don't get to know about that. That's more specifically what I studied at Duke University. And that's why Steve this morning briefly mentioned my area of interest. My master's project focused on preventing conflict between indigenous peoples, local communities, and development forces, mining operations, hydroelectric power dams, large-scale commercial agriculture. Those development forces have been displacing people, displacing